Welcome to Access Television. I'm Gunargie Sullivan, and my special guest today is Gary McDermott. He is the program coordinator at Access Employment and Training. Welcome to the show, Gary. It's nice to have you here.
Hi, Gunargie. Thanks.
Yeah. So Access Training and Employment is located at 1607 East Hastings. Can you tell us more about what Access has to offer our community of First Nations people?
Sure. Access is actually an acronym for Aboriginal Community Careers Employment Services Society. We've been around for about 20 years working with the urban Aboriginal population here in Vancouver, in Metro Vancouver. We actually have 1607 is one of our offices, but we actually have an office kitty corner from Gunargie Centre.
Oh, really?
Employment Assistance Office. We have an office in Surrey, and we have an office in New Westminster.
Beautiful.
And our head office in West Van. But basically we provide programs for Aboriginal people to train them and get them ready for employment.
Okay, so if I was a First Nations person looking for training opportunities, I would go to www.accessemployment?
That's www.accessfutures.com, yes.
Oh, good, okay. And I can find training initiatives in the workforce, like
yes.
What new initiatives will Access be taking on this year?
Yeah, well, we fund a number of programs, anything from entry-level programs to trades programs. The programs that I oversee are one of the new programs that we have coming up on starting in February is a entry to healthcare assistant program. It's in partnership with VCC, and it's for Aboriginal people. We provide all essential skills training to make sure you're successful when you take the program at VCC. You end up with a certificate. We provide you with living supports, your equipment, all the traiing.
Anything you need to get you on your feet.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you very much for sharing that information with us. I also know that this isn't the beginning of your journey as a First Nations person. You were displaced like I was during the 60 Scoop litigation. And that's what I would like to talk to you about, to have a little discussion about your journey as an adopted or fostered person.
Yeah.
You are aware that there are lawyers who are a part of this litigation process, that there was an announcement in February 2017 with the Trudeau government, and they were talking about beginning this negotiation process to work on a national settlement for the 60 Scoop. And now there are a number of lawyers who are heading this application process in British Columbia. We have David Klein. You know, in Winnipeg, there is a lawyer by the name of Konski and Minsky, and you've signed up with him in Alberta to begin the 60 Scoop application process. Can you first of all share your experience as somebody who has been deeply affected by the 60 Scoop?
Yeah, you know, as someone who spent their entire childhood in foster care, that is, you know, an experience that, you know, has defined my life and, you know, and still, you know, sits with me today, even though I'm 64 years old. I spent 18 years in foster care. 18
years
yeah, I was
in foster care.
Permanent ward of the Alberta government, never adopted. Lived in numerous foster homes.
Really?
Lived in a convent. And, you know, the way I can define my experiences in foster care was, you know, the first 10 years, you know, were the most traumatic. I spent almost the entire first year of my life in a hospital because of injuries that I received.
While in foster care?
While in a boarding home. I excuse me, I don't have full record of my the injuries that I received, but I had a fractured hip, broken bones, contusion to my eye, a number of significant injuries as an infant, as a very young child. And that was just in my first year.
And that was just in your first year?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I, went on to experience, a lot of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. Plus, spent a lot of time confined and having food withheld from me. And in spite of all of those experiences, and that was just the first 10 years of my life.
Yeah.
I think the thing that had the most lasting impression on me during that time was the amount of time that I spent alone. And some of that was in confinement, like in a basement, dark, no lights, no food, no company, no stimulation. And that had most impact on my young adolescence and young adulthood.
Yeah, because the displacement and the disconnection from our families isolates us enough. I couldn't imagine on top of that being locked out of society and denied nutritious food and social interaction.
And then after I left foster care, after I basically survived that experience, I left foster care at the age of 18.
18.
And that was in 1971. And I was alone. Had absolutely, absolutely nobody.
Were you homeless?
I wasn't homeless.
Were you couch surfing?
Basically what happened was, I did, the foster care system had the foresight to make sure that I had an education, so I graduated from high school.
Good.
I also completed a college program, and I went straight to work.
Good. And did you find employment right away?
I did.
Did you?
I did. I guess I was resourceful, but I struggled. I'm not going to say it was easy because, one of the first things that happened was I discovered alcohol.
Oh.
And I never understood completely why I drank so much.
Yeah.
But the moment I took a drink, had my first taste of alcohol, I was like an instant alcoholic.
Really?
And I drank very destructively.
For how long?
For 17 years.
17 years.
Yeah.
And how old were you when you discovered alcohol?
I was about 16 years old.
And when did you finally, the light go on, and when did you finally say no to alcohol and take those steps?
Well, a number of things happened. The most significant thing that happened was when I was 18, I basically made it my life's mission to find to find my mother. And so I started looking for her. And I couldn't find her. And so, I drank a lot and just tried to bury all that pain.
Yeah.
And I basically gave up. I realized I probably never going to find my mother. And then it was in 1980, it was 1981. I was 31 years old.
Yeah.
And just by sheer coincidence, it was just basically an act of God, the Creator.
Yeah.
After I had given up. I found my mother.
Wow, amazing.
And that experience obviously was life-changing, but it took me another 6 years to quit drinking because I was so, so addicted.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't process what all that meant.
Yes.
So eventually I was able to, quit by I got help, I saw a counselor, I went to AA, I went to treatment, and I was finally able to sober up
Yeah.
at the age of 34.
Yeah. So you've been sober for just, over half your life now.
Over 30 years.
Over 30 years.
Yeah.
And you are now engaged in this this 60 Scoop litigation. Now, when you look back at all of the trauma that you've been through, and some of the alcoholism and the healing journey that you've been through, is $25,000 to $50,000 enough, or does it matter or not to you?
Well, the biggest thing for me has been that aloneness. I have felt so alone in my experience for much of my life. And it was only when I found sobriety and found my way back to the Aboriginal community and started talking to people that I realized that this didn't just happen to me. And what I see this settlement as is an acknowledgement of an experience of a whole generation of people. I grew up in Alberta, and Alberta was prospering while I was suffering.
Dying inside, bit by bit. Yeah.
And nobody knew about it.
So for you, it's about acknowledgement. It's not about the money. And I know that that is how many people view the 60 Scoop litigation process. And I'm really glad that you share your opinion with us so freely and the experiences that you had as a 60 Scoop survivor. I wish you the best.
Yeah.
And I will follow up with you in the years to come to follow you on your journey, Gary. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.